Alright guys, enough setting everything up. We can now get into learning the less syntax. Now, I'm starting with just a blank website, like the most bare bones one you can have. Here it is. Look how awesome this looks right now. And let's just go ahead and make some content. I'm going to make like a heading 1, and I'll just be like Bucky's Landscaping. So, I don't know, maybe that's a business I'm starting out, and I'm going to have a paragraph in it too. And this is going to be like, I love to mow lawns. Alright, so we need to style this because, I mean, right now, look how ugly this is. So, we're going to link it to a style sheet, and I'm probably going to only have one style sheet in this entire tutorial series. So, in order to add a style sheet, rel style sheet, and I'm just going to call mine main.css. Alright, so it's linking to a style sheet called main.css, but I didn't create this main.css file yet. Instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click this and add a new file, and this is going to be called main.less. Now remember, I'm linking to the CSS because browsers only understand CSS, but I'm going to be creating this .less file. And the reason I do this is because, remember, what that translator does, that compiler, is it takes this less file and converts it in the CSS behind the scenes. So we're only going to be writing code in here, but our translator or compiler, it takes care of the rest. And actually, if you expand this in JetBrains IDEs, at least, you can see the CSS file that it gets translated to. So enough me talking, let's go ahead and start styling it. So the first thing I want to do is this. I know that I'm going to be using a fancy green color a lot because this is a landscaping company. Now, instead of just writing, you know, the value like 009900 anytime I want to use that color, I'm going to store that color inside a variable, and that's going to make it reusable however many times I want. So in order to make variables or placeholders, use the @ sign and then type whatever you want your variable to be named. I'm going to name mine grass because, I don't know, it reminds me of green. And this thing right here is kind of annoying. That's just showing you, hey, we're trying to translate this in the CSS and this isn't actual less, because I'm not done freaking typing it yet, but you know. Alright, so type your variable name, colon, and then the value of whatever that variable is. So anytime I use this variable, what less is going to do is it's going to plug in this value. So now I can just write it like normal CSS. So in heading 1, I'll change the color. Now right here, where I would typically write some hex, I would write grass. And let me just add another one. So font, family, I'll put like a Tahoma and sans serif. So you can actually mix this in with standard CSS and also fancy less. So let me do the same for a paragraph so I can show you guys how handy this is actually. And boom, there you go. So again, what less is going to do is it's going to go through your CSS right here, and anytime it sees a variable, it's going to say, okay, you want to use this value. Same with here. And actually, if we look at the CSS file, that's what it translated to. Boom to boom. So if I look at my website, look at that. But you know what? Even though that, you know, green is supposed to remind me of grass, I really want this blue. So instead of going through and changing this to blue and this to blue like I would have to if I was just working with plain old CSS, with less, all I have to do is this. Change it in one location. And since these are variables, placeholders, it automatically gets updated across my entire CSS file. You guys are loving this already, aren't you? And boom, look at that. Everything's blue. Now, already you can see how handy this is, because if you ever designed a website before, you know that you just don't have these colors in two locations. On my website, the color themes I have, I use the same color in like probably 100 or more locations. So how much faster is this going to be than, you know, going through manually? And the last thing I want to mention before I let you guys go, whenever I'm just teaching this, I'm probably going to use weird names, but you never want to name this something like green. So for example, if you just named it green, like this, then what happens when you decide to change its color to blue? Well, all your variables are going to be named green, and it's going to be confusing. So you never want to name it what the property is. Like, you never want to name it a specific color. You want to name it something like border color or paragraph backgrounds or something like that. What it is, not what it's equal to. So, use good naming conventions, and that is how you use variables. And trust me, there's a lot more to cover in less. If you guys fell in love with that already, I don't blame you. Wait till you see what's coming up next.